factional battles in the ruling party spill over and actually start becoming an impediment to municipalities actually delivering. The question of patronage. Do we expect too much from municipalities that more often or not, are used as vehicles to deliver on promises made to certain friends and people who supported me during this election campaign, etc.? Do we really have municipalities that are developmentally and focused on economic transformation in our society?
I think that Shaka was right in that he alluded to two parallel systems taking place. There's the party system and the delivery of benefits through systems of party political patronage, and then there's the bureaucracy. And both of them are exclusionary, but they're exclusionary in different ways. The party, the ruling party, whichever it happens to be, in this part of the world, the ANC, has to deliver to its clients, and people who are non-clients are excluded. The bureaucracy has to deliver to those people who are said to be the customers of the state. And in Joburg, as I've already said, that's ratepayers. And those who aren't ratepayers are excluded. And the people that end up protesting are the people that are excluded both from party political patronage networks and excluded from the site of the bureaucracy. And the essence of protest is disruption. That system of distributing benefits is disrupted through protest, is a way of making the excluded to render themselves visible. And the underlying problem is, as you so eloquently point out, is that there just aren't enough resources to go around. Our budget is fairly good, fairly high. Our government budgets are fairly high by middle-income country standards. We are a middle-income country, but we are also the most unequal society in the world. And so, even though the aggregate level of wealth and resources in South Africa is quite high, it's all stuffed at one end. And 95%, 80% of the population lives at a standard which is substantially below a middle-income country standard. And the problem is neither the party nor the bureaucracy, whatever the bureaucracy happens to be, and whatever the party happens to be, can't deliver on people's expectations. And people's expectations aren't that ambitious. They're fairly basic. They're the basic elements of a decent existence, somewhere to live, adequate water, access to electricity if they're lucky, a job, a basic income. But for the vast majority of people in this country, those simply aren't a reality, and under the current economic system can't be delivered as a reality. South Africa is caught up in an economic orthodoxy, which isn't just imposed from the outside, it's accepted from the inside. And the only way that we're going to break out of that orthodoxy is long-term investment, spending money and borrowing money to make more money. That's true, good old-fashioned Keynesianism. But also it's through growing secondary and tertiary industries, not just relying on extractives. Reintroducing ourselves to something that's very unpopular, but is the only way that any economy is ever industrialized, and that's import substitution. Shielding domestic, a few key strategic domestic industries that employ a hell of a lot of people, that generate a lot of jobs, and shielding them from international competition. And inventing a new kind of politics by inventing a new kind of economics. And we're just nowhere near that at the moment. And for so long as we remain in this sort of very straitjacketed idea of economic orthodoxy, we're constantly going to be amazed and frustrated by how little the party can deliver and how little the bureaucracy can deliver. Unfortunately, we all find ourselves at the moment defending that orthodoxy because it could be even worse. There could be no predictability in the way that the National Treasury behaves. There could be no predictability in our economic policy. It could be that our economic policy could be determined by the particular acquisitive priorities of the person who happens to be in power at the time. And so if you don't approve this or that project, you're not the finance minister anymore, somebody else is. The rand plummets. Our hitherto hard-earned reputation for economic stability collapses, and things become even worse. We're moving in the opposite direction. We're not even seen as a country with a reputation for economic and fiscal probity. When we should be spending that capital by looking at innovative economic policy that's going to help redistribute wealth to the poor, we're squandering it in order to meet the priorities, the patronage priorities of the leader of the ruling party. It's all incredibly depressing because it's going one way rather than the other. And the only way out, in my view, is, at least in the short term, as you say, more protests, more visibility, more anger about the way things are going, because they're going in exactly the wrong direction.
Why can't voting be the disruptor? Why is it in South Africa that people would rather go and protest? And we heard the people in Tshwane, those of you who were following the protests in Tshwane, giving the ANC an ultimatum. If you don't do what we tell you to do regarding this issue of the mayor, we'll vote for the DA. But why can't they just vote for the DA or vote for the EFF? I just couldn't understand. Why can't voting be the disruptor? I just want to open it up to the audience while you guys think about that. And let's hear some comments, some questions.
I think this lady gave a good comment already.
Oh, what did she say? I didn't see it.
Which one? I said we're in Africa. Or Somba.
Oh, okay, all right. Do you want to just continue on that thought?
I guess I was saying that, I mean, the nature of politics in Africa is about patronage, is about our connection to these ruling parties, and a lot of, in most African states, is as a liberation movement. And that's how we identify with them, that they're part of our lives in a lot of different ways. So it's not a thing of, oh wow, it's not working for me now, let me vote for the DA. It's, there's a deep history to it. And I think the protests are saying, listen, you are our people. Since you're our people, we're going to protest and tell you you're not doing things right. And we're going to threaten you, but I don't think people are actually going to move and vote for the DA. I think that's a basic explanation.
Thank you for that comment. Some hands? Okay, you go ahead.
I've seen some data which suggests that protests are very high in South Africa, and also I think Namibia and Mozambique, because of this proportional representation system, in the sense that because you have a party list, I mean, you asked about whether we knew our MP, but in single-member districts in other countries, I mean, established democracies like in England, your MP has office hours, and you can go every Friday or once a month whenever they have this office hours. So you actually have a place to go, and you have a house to burn down if you so choose, right? But you know where they are. And apparently there's actually this correlation between, who is this amorphous person who decides things? But having said that, though, the thing which I find rather strange in South Africa is that, as the ANC claims, they're not a political party, so they're a liberation movement. So in theory, many people are members of this movement. So actually what I look at, I say is like, you have this grassroots organization, you have ward committees, like how come you can't sort out your own SHIT, Because actually that's what it is. It's like it's their own internal stuff, which is, I think poses a very interesting question in terms of political development. Aside from everything else, why can't the ANC itself, which is the most institutionalized political party in Africa, not break, which we'd hoped, this awful trend of patronage politics which we have in the rest of Africa. Like, I'm from Malawi, and honestly, if you give me $2 million US, I can be president, It doesn't matter what I say, I don't need a manifesto, I just need to pay off enough people, Whereas at least the ANC, the Freedom Charter, actually is something people ascribe to. People actually say, I'm a servant of the party,
There's something that you said at the beginning about, obviously, the use of the proportional representation system. And I think it highlights something very interesting that I've found speaking to many South Africans. At the local government level, we have a mixed system, a mixed electoral system. It is not just a list system. You can actually vote for individuals at that level. You can actually know your ward councillor. We do need to reflect on is, do people actually understand these distinctions? Is our system not maybe complicated, you know, where you have one thing running at the national, provincial level, and then a completely different system at the local level? Isn't that just recipe for confusion and to mix people up such that they don't actually know how to hold government accountable? At which level, for what?